Just a quick note before we start. I really want to improve my audience retention. If you think, hey, this is pretty good, give it a like and subscribe. If you're more like, not quite, drop me a comment and let me know what didn't work. All right, let's get into it. The Missing Winter family. Every winter, like clockwork, the Nystroms would return. A couple in their 60s, mild, polite, and a bit too quiet. They'd show up around early December in their beat-up gray station wagon, unload what looked like an unreasonable number of canned goods, and settle into the old greenhouse, just outside Brunswick. The house sat close to the tree line, far enough from the village center to seem isolated, but not so far anyone thought twice about it. Nobody knew where they went during the rest of the year. That wasn't unusual around here. Lots of people moved seasonally, and no one in Brunswick was nosy enough to care. But this year was different. By late January, someone noticed the snow in the Nystrom's driveway hadn't been disturbed. No tire tracks, no footprints, just a clean white sheet. Eric, one of the younger guys at the municipal office, mid-30s, 2 kids, terrible at remembering birthdays, was the first to mention it. He'd been tasked with updating the winter census and thought it strange their house hadn't submitted a meter reading. Maybe they went south this year, his supervisor had said. But something felt off. Eric couldn't explain why. Maybe it was how the power company insisted the house was still drawing electricity, or how the water records showed someone had taken a 12-minute shower last Tuesday. So Eric grabbed the file, drove out there one cold afternoon, and parked his car at the bottom of the hill. The trees were brittle with frost. His boots crunched with every step. No smoke from the chimney, no lights inside, but also no damage. No signs of break-ins, no graffiti. Just silence. He knocked, waited, knocked again. Nothing. He walked around the house, peering through the frosted windows. The living room looked normal. A couch, a lamp, one of those ugly Swedish rugs that all the old houses had. But no movement. He cupped his hands to the glass, squinted. The table was set for 2. Plates, utensils, even a folded napkin. And in the center, a newspaper. He couldn't make out the date. That's when he felt the buzz in his pocket. An email notification. It was from the Brunswick municipal system. Subject: urgent. Missing staff. He frowned, opened the message. There was his name, his photo. Missing since yesterday. His hands went cold. Colder than the wind. He took a step back from the window. The snow beneath him didn't crunch. He looked down. No footprints. Not his. Not anyone's. It was like he hadn't walked there at all. He ran to the car, locked the doors, sat in the driver's seat, breathing hard. The engine wouldn't start. The keys felt heavier than they should have. He checked his phone again. No signal, no Wi-Fi, just the email staring back at him. When he looked back at the house, the porch light was on, and 2 figures stood inside, watching. They didn't move. They didn't wave. They were just there. Now tell me this. If you drove past a house like that tomorrow, out in the woods, with no tracks in the snow, would you stop? The neighbor in the woods. I moved into the cabin on a Monday. It was one of those places you find on accident. An old log house tucked into a hill in the Norwegian woods. Just far enough from civilization to be charming. Just close enough to town that people wouldn't think I'd lost my mind. The first few nights were peaceful. Cold. Sure, but peaceful. I was there to finish a manuscript. I told myself the isolation would help. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal, just wood smoke and silence. It was the 4th night when I first saw them. A face. Not outside, not peering in. Just There, on the other side of the window, not 6 feet from where I was sitting by the fire. Pale, maybe male, maybe not. Just standing in the snow, eyes level with mine. I froze. Not metaphorically. My actual breath stopped. Then I did what any rational person would do. I blinked, shook my head, told myself it was a trick of the light. I even stood and walked to the window, nose almost pressed to the glass. No one there. I laughed, a little too loud. Felt silly. Maybe I needed more sleep. That night, I locked the door with a little more urgency, pulled the curtains. The next morning, there were footprints, not boot prints. Bare feet. Human. From the tree line to the porch, right up to my front door. I didn't open it, not for a while. Eventually, curiosity got the better of me. I stepped outside, breath curling in the air, and stared at the tracks. They weren't deep. Whoever made them had been light, or fast. I took pictures, sent them to a friend the next time I was in town. He said it was probably a prank, or an animal. He wasn't sure. Moose don't have toes, I texted back. He didn't reply. That night, I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching in the snow, one after another, all the way up to my door. And then, nothing. No knock, no attempt to enter. Just silence. The next morning, something was leaning against the door. It was a figure, human-shaped, woven from branches and twine, about 4 feet tall. Its arms dangled strangely, like it had shoulders but no bones, no face, but the twigs twisted at the top into a kind of head. I stared at it for a long time. Then I burned it. I didn't sleep well after that. Every creak in the cabin made me jump. I kept the fire going through the night. I moved a chair against the door, and yet, every morning, there'd be a new figure. Sometimes smaller. Sometimes with little things braided into the arms. Pine cones, bird feathers, what looked like a strip of cloth once. I called the local police. They drove out, shrugged, and said the same thing my friend did. Probably kids, one officer said, not bothering to step out of the car. Or wildlife, said the other. I asked if they'd seen any footprints. They looked at each other, then said no. But I had, every morning. On the 8th night, I stayed up. I sat by the fire with the lights off, curtains open. At 2:43 a.m., I saw them again. Not just the face, this time, the whole figure. Standing at the edge of the trees, watching, waiting. I didn't move. Neither did they. Then they raised an arm, waved, and slowly walked away. That morning, no figure on the porch, just a single pine cone, hollowed out. Inside was a note written in smudged pencil. You moved in. We're neighbors now. I never responded. I didn't have to. The next night, there were 2 figures in the snow. How many neighbors do you think a person can have if there aren't any houses around? The abandoned post office. They say if you look at old enough maps, you'll find towns that don't exist anymore. Places swallowed by time, nature, or simply forgotten. That's how I found Palkinen. No one I asked had heard of it. Not on message boards, not on travel sites, not even among the Finnish locals I reached out to online. But there it was, barely legible on a scanned 1924 rail map. Palkinen, marked with a postal symbol. I wasn't sure what I was looking for exactly. Maybe a collapsed shed, maybe nothing. But as someone with an unhealthy obsession with post offices, don't laugh, I had to check it out. It took me 3 trains, a rental car, and a mile of hiking through melting snow and tree roots to get there. And when I finally did, it was standing. A single-story wooden building, dark brown from years of weather with a faded red stripe. still visible around the window frame. The door creaked when I pushed it open, and inside smelled like wet paper and old pine. It shouldn't have existed, but it did. The floor was covered in stacks of letters. Thousands of envelopes, some tied with string, others scattered like leaves. None had stamps, none had addresses, not even names. I picked one up. The paper was dry, brittle at the edges, but unopened. Curiosity beat caution. I slid my finger under the flap. Inside was a folded page. The handwriting was sharp, fast, nervous. I unfolded it and stopped breathing for a second. It read, March 18th, 2025. I don't know who's reading this. Maybe it's no one. Maybe it's you. This morning I ate the last piece of rye bread and tried not to think about what comes next. My hands are shaking as I write. I think they're getting closer. My stomach turned cold. I turned the letter over, looking for anything to explain it. A return address, a name, a signature. Nothing. I picked up another letter. Same thing. And another. And another. All handwritten, all anxious, none signed. Then I found one that was different. It was a smaller envelope, off-white, tucked neatly between two stacks. And this one had a name written on it. My name. Not a common name. Not something you guess. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. Inside was a piece of paper with exactly 3 lines. Stop reading. Go home. You still have time. My heart was racing. I laughed. Out loud. Too loud. But it didn't feel real. I looked around the room. Nothing moved. No sound except the creaking of the roof. And yet, I folded the letter, put it in my coat pocket, and left. Didn't bother to close the door. I trudged through the trees, back to the car, back to the rental agency, back to my little apartment. That was 2 weeks ago, and this morning I found another envelope on my doormat. No return address. Inside was a copy of today's journal entry, the one I'd written an hour earlier. Tell me, do you think letters can be sent backwards? The tunnel echo. We were somewhere in the Icelandic highlands, the kind of nowhere that makes your phone a paperweight. Our rental car, a compact white hatchback we nicknamed Puffin, had taken us across lava fields and moss-covered valleys, and now it was about to take us through a mountain tunnel that wasn't on our map. I swear it wasn't here last time, Jamie said, squinting at the GPS, which was showing nothing but gray. Well, it's either this or backtrack 80 kilometers, I replied, trying to sound confident. Truth was, something about the entrance unsettled me. It wasn't the lack of signage or the way the asphalt seemed unnaturally smooth. It was the darkness, not black, not pitch, just wrong, like staring into a mouth. So of course, we drove in. Inside, our headlights barely seemed to touch the walls. There were no reflectors, no lights, just tunnel. 10 seconds in, Jamie turned off the radio. Did you hear that? Hear what? A voice, like whispering. I laughed, nervously. It's probably the air vents or something. There are no vents. We kept going. The speedometer said 50 kilometers per hour, but it felt like we were crawling. Jamie held the GPS like it might change its mind and show us something. I gripped the wheel harder than I needed to. That's when it spoke. A whisper, not from outside the car, but from inside. Turn around. We both heard it. I slammed the brakes. Did you? Yeah, Jamie whispered. I heard it too. We sat there unmoving, the engine ticking. Should we turn back? I asked. Jamie looked ahead. We're probably halfway. Just keep going. So we did. Another minute passed in silence. Then the exit appeared. Daylight. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. We emerged, blinking. The road was empty, flanked by snowbanks and silence. And then Jamie gasped. There, on the shoulder, was our car. White hatchback. Same license plate. Same dent in the front bumper from Reykjavik. But we were still inside our car. What the hell? I muttered, pulling over behind it. We got out. Slowly. Approached it like it might explode. The windows were fogged. Jamie wiped one with her sleeve. Inside, 2 people. Us. Same clothes, same expressions. Frozen in place. Eyes wide, mouths open like they'd been mid-scream. I staggered back. Jamie clutched my arm. Get in. We're leaving. I didn't argue. We drove. Fast. Didn't talk until the mountains were gone behind us. We pulled into a gas station an hour later, hands still shaking. The attendant asked if we were okay. We lied. On our way back to Reykjavik 2 days later, we told ourselves we'd take a different route. But the GPS insisted the tunnel was the only option. When we got there, we stopped at the entrance. Just to see. Another car pulled up behind us. A couple. They looked tired, confused. The man rolled down his window. Is this the only road through? Jamie nodded. Yeah. Just watch for your car on the other side. He blinked. Our car? She shrugged. You'll see. They drove in. We waited 5 minutes, then turned around. Tell me, what would you have done? The man in the snow, every year like clockwork, there he was. Ski season in Ore wasn't what it used to be. The tourists still came, sure, but the locals had started to notice the shifts. Warmer winters, fewer snow days, more complaints about the powder. But one thing stayed constant. The man in white. I first saw him when I was 11. My mom worked the lift line, and I'd hang out at the edge of the slope after school. Everyone knew him, or rather, knew of him. White snowsuit, reflective goggles, a neck gaiter pulled so high you couldn't even tell if he had a mouth. No one had ever seen him take off the gear. Ever. He didn't talk, didn't nod, just skied. Only downhill. No one ever saw him take the lift. You'd spot him at the top of the run, and 5 minutes later, he'd be halfway down. No sound, no whoosh of skis cutting snow. Just there. Then gone. I asked my mom about him. She gave a shrug. He's harmless. Bit weird, maybe. But harmless. I wasn't so sure. Last winter, my cousin Lucas and I decided to follow him. Lucas had this old GoPro and wanted to make a video. Might go viral, he said. I just wanted to know what happened when he reached the bottom of the slope. We waited. 4:12 p.m., like always, the man appeared at the top. Lucas had timed him the year before. He'd start his descent between 4:10 and 4:15, like some ritual. He moved slow, deliberate, almost like he was gliding instead of skiing. Lucas and I stayed behind a tree line, careful not to crunch the snow. He vanished into the trees at the base. We followed. There was no trail, just unbroken snow. Maybe he cut across to the other run, Lucas whispered. I shook my head. Look. Ahead of us, in the middle of the clearing, stood the man. Only he wasn't moving. Wasn't even standing, not really. His suit stood upright, filled out. But no one was inside. I swear to you, there was no head in the hood, no hands in the gloves. Just the suit, like someone had filled it with snow and molded it into shape. Except it was warm, steaming. Lucas held up his camera. It fogged up. Then the suit collapsed. Just folded in on itself. Pants first, then arms, then the hood, like a balloon letting out its last breath. We ran. Neither of us looked back. When we got home, the footage was gone. Lucas checked the memory card over and over. Blank. The next morning, I opened the front door to grab the paper. His suit was there, neatly folded. Boots stacked beside it. A pair of goggles perched on top. And a note. Just one line, written in black marker on the back of a lift ticket. Try it on. I didn't, but someone did. Because the next afternoon, at exactly 4:12 p.m., there he was again. Would you have tried it on? The woman who watches. They told me the job would be simple. 6 cameras, one night. Just mount them, run a quick test, upload the feed to the system, and you're done. Campus housing was dead quiet by the time I arrived. Students were on break, apparently. Empty dorms, empty halls. Just me, a couple of drills, some screw anchors, and a laptop full of firmware updates. The dorm was older than I expected. Red brick, creaky steps, weird insulation. The kind of building that smells faintly of boiled cabbage no matter the season. I set up shop just past the lobby, where the lights were already flickering in that horror movie kind of way. Funny, but only a little. The first 3 cameras went up without a hitch. Standard placements, one facing the elevator, one in the common room, and one outside the back door. The 4th, I mounted near the stairwell. Tight corner, but it had good coverage. The 5th and 6th were positioned on the 3rd floor hallway and the basement laundry room. By midnight, I was back at the control station. Test feed looked good. Slight lag, but clear enough. Except, camera 4 showed a woman. She was standing right in front of it, pale face, long dark hair, wearing what looked like a nightgown, or something outdated. Maybe a costume. But the way she was staring into the lens, unnerving. Like she wasn't seeing the camera, she was seeing me. I thought maybe I'd walked past a resident, or a prank. Some kids leave mannequins around for fun. I scrubbed the video back 10 minutes. Nothing. One frame she wasn't there. The next she was. I blinked. Saved the clip. Went up to the 4th floor. No one. I checked the hallway. All quiet. No creaking. No whispering. Just old dorm silence. Back at the laptop, I reviewed the other camera feeds. Nothing odd. Camera 4, though, still glitching. I rebooted the system. Restarted the stream. And she was gone. Relief? Not really. Just more confusion. I packed up and headed home around 2:30 a.m. By morning, there were 6 photos on my phone. Not ones I'd taken. 6 still images. All time-stamped between 3 a.m. and 3 a.m. All showing me, standing beside the woman in the nightgown, in the stairwell, in the laundry room, outside by the back door. I dropped the phone. Thought maybe someone hacked it. Maybe the camera rig had Bluetooth access. Maybe I left it open. But my laptop showed the footage had been overwritten. The 3 a.m. slot? Gone. Automatically deleted. No backup. No error log. I emailed the footage I did have to a friend who does digital forensics. He called me an hour later. Where was this taken? University housing? Old dorm? Why? Because the woman in frame 4? She's been dead since 1986. Apparently, there was a gas leak. She never made it out. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because that's what you do when the floor starts shaking beneath your worldview. I didn't go back to uninstall the cameras. They offered me double pay. Triple. I said no. Then last week, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Just one image. Camera 4. And in the feed, I'm standing in front of the lens again, smiling. But I haven't been back. So who's watching from the other side this time? And more importantly, who's holding the camera? The Undying in the ice. They found the first body on a Monday, just before noon, about 500 meters from the glacier trailhead. He was half buried in the snow, one arm outstretched like he'd been reaching for something that wasn't there. Old gear, canvas jacket, rusted buckles, cracked leather boots that looked like museum pieces. No ID, no phone, no modern anything. Just a notebook in the chest pocket, soaked through. The 2 hikers who found him, a couple from the city, took photos, marked the coordinates, and hiked back down to notify the local rescue team. They didn't touch the body. Said they felt weird about it. One of them swore he heard a voice say, "Don't wake him." By the time rescue got there, the light was fading. The body was still there, same position, same eerie stillness. He looked frozen. Yes, but not like a corpse. More like someone caught in a deep sleep. They took him to the local morgue. That night, a call came in from another team. Different part of the trail. Another body. Same clothing. Same face. Same man. But this second one had no frostbite. His body was warm. He hadn't been dead long. Maybe 12, 14 hours tops. Just like the other. Both bodies were laid out in the same room. A small, cramped facility in a nearby town, only used in the winter months. The coroner was baffled. Said it was like looking at the same man twice, at 2 different points in a single day. The first one showed signs of long exposure, frost inside the lungs, crystallized tissue. The second one had none of that. Neither had fingerprints on file. Dental records led nowhere. But the strange part, stranger part, was what came next. The next morning, both bodies were gone. No signs of forced entry. Just melted snow on the floor, like something wet had walked out. The notebook from the jacket, also gone. Local legend, as it turns out, speaks of something called the Undying. Old myth from the Sami people. They say those who die, lost in the ice, don't move on. Not until someone finds them. Not until someone sees them. And if more than one person sees them, then they start to multiply. The couple who found the first one never came back to town. Locals say they kept hiking, vanished up north somewhere, maybe still walking. A week later, a hiker posted a photo online, an untagged image in a private mountaineering group. It showed a figure in antique gear, standing alone near a glacier, one arm raised as if waving. Comments were turned off. You ever wonder what would happen if you waved back? The talking bedroom. It started with whispers, not the eerie kind that sends a chill down your spine, but quiet, almost conversational murmurs, like someone was talking on the phone in the next room. But the only people in the house were Ingrid and her husband, Lars, and neither of them used a phone past 10 p.m. "Do you hear that?" Ingrid had asked one night, sitting up in bed, head tilted. Lars grunted, already halfway to sleep. "It's probably the pipes." But it wasn't the pipes. Ingrid knew the voice of her daughter. Every mother does. And that was the first time she heard Emma's voice, since the girl had vanished 10 years ago. It didn't make sense. Emma had run away. At least, that's what the police said. No signs of foul play, just an empty bedroom and a note that read, "I need to figure things out." Lars burned the note the same day. Said it was better to let it go. But now, the voice was back. And it wasn't alone. Each night, Ingrid left her phone recording. Not with any real expectations, just to prove to herself she wasn't crazy. The first recording was mostly silence, then a crackle. Then, "I don't like it here," said a young girl's voice. "It's too cold." "We can't leave yet," replied a second voice, older, female. Lars said it was a prank. He even reset the Wi-Fi router, changed passwords, checked for hidden speakers. But every night, the voices returned, a little clearer each time. "They can't hear us yet," said the older voice. "But soon." On the fifth night, the voice, Emma's voice, said, "Tell them to check the basement." That got Lars's attention. The basement hadn't been used in years. They stored potatoes and old tools down there. The fuse box, cobwebs. That's it. Or so they thought. They moved aside a shelf and found a door they didn't recognize. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading to a root cellar no one remembered digging. The air was musty, the kind that clings to your lungs. At the end of the room was a stone wall. Nothing unusual, until Lars tapped it. Hollow. It took them hours, but they cleared the bricks, layer by layer. Behind them was a small space, just big enough for a bed. Child-sized, with a mattress, a blanket, and a doll Emma had loved. Ingrid dropped to her knees. She ran her fingers across the fabric, now brittle with time. "Why would she be down here?" Lars whispered, but his voice trembled. They called the police. The officers took statements, photos, samples, promised to investigate. But that night, the voices didn't come. Instead, Ingrid dreamed. She was standing in the basement, but it was warm, lit by a soft glow. Emma sat on the bed, legs swinging, holding the doll. She smiled. "I'm okay now, Mom. You found me." Ingrid woke up crying. But the next morning, Lars' phone had a new photo in the gallery. It showed the root cellar, freshly cleaned, with two figures in it, a woman and a girl, sitting side by side. Neither one looked like Ingrid. So, tell me, if a house wants to talk, do you always want to know what it's saying? The Homestay rule. The room was spotless. A small twin bed with floral sheets, a writing desk by the window, and a little bookshelf that someone had thoughtfully stocked with English novels. It smelled like lavender and fresh wood polish. When I first arrived, I thought I'd lucked out. Karen, my host mom, met me at the door with a soft smile and a plate of warm cinnamon rolls. She was in her 60s, short and sprightly, the type of woman who never stopped moving, but made everything look effortless. "We go to bed early here," she'd said that first evening. "Quiet hours are from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. You mustn't leave your room during that time, dear. Not for any reason." I remember laughing, thinking it was a joke, but she didn't laugh back. "It's an old house, sounds carey. I'm a light sleeper." That part made sense, I guess, and really, it wasn't a big deal. I had my own bathroom attached to the room, plenty of space and privacy. The first few nights passed without issue. Karen made breakfast each morning, always something homemade. She'd ask about my classes, my professors, even offered to drive me to the university if it was raining. She was lovely. Odd, maybe, but lovely. Then came Thursday. I woke up around 2:30 a.m., stomach twisting. Something I'd eaten hadn't agreed with me. The tiny bathroom was occupied, plumbing issues. She'd warned me the day before. I waited as long as I could, but eventually I had to go. I hesitated at the door. Her rule came back to me. Not for any reason. Still, what could really happen? I'd tiptoe out, use the hall restroom, and be back in bed in less than a minute. No one would know. I opened the door silently. The hallway was dark, except for a faint orange glow from the nightlight near the stairs. And that's when I saw it. A face, inches from mine, staring through the crack in the door. I slammed it shut and backed away, heart hammering. No scream came out. I was too shocked. The face had no expression, just wide eyes and a pale, paper-like quality. Not Karen, not anyone I recognized. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, Karen greeted me in the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Same cinnamon rolls. Same questions about my schedule. I tried to bring it up. Karen, I think someone was in the hallway last night. She paused while pouring tea. That's why we don't open doors at night, dear. That was it. I started locking my door. She never questioned it. A few days later, while cleaning under the bed for a dropped pen, I saw them. Footprints. Human. Pressed neatly into the dust. Folded. Bent in ways that didn't make anatomical sense. Like someone had been lying flat, knees and feet tucked under unnaturally, waiting. I moved out the following week. Found a flat with noisy roommates and a broken radiator. Best decision I ever made. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stepped fully into that hallway. If I hadn't shut the door fast enough, would you have opened it? The review that won't end. Iceland was supposed to be a reset. Just me, a rented car, and a week of off-the-grid peace. And for the most part, it was. The Airbnb I stayed at was near a popular hot spring, clean, quiet, and way cheaper than the hotels. The listing said, recently renovated, and it showed. New appliances, warm water, a welcome card on the kitchen counter that said, enjoy your stay. The host didn't live on site, which I liked. We exchanged a few messages when I first booked, and then again when I checked in. All automatic, short, and polite. Just how I wanted it. The trip itself? Perfect. Waterfalls, black sand beaches, overpriced sandwiches. I loved all of it. I even managed to keep a daily photo journal, something I'd never done before. Most of the pictures were landscape shots or selfies with coffee mugs, but it was nice. It felt like I was proving to myself that I could be happy alone. I flew home the following Monday, left a 4-star review, docked 1 star because the Wi-Fi had been spotty. That should have been the end of it, but the next week I got an email. Don't forget to review your stay at property address. Weird, but I figured it was a system glitch. I'd already reviewed it. I deleted the email. A few days later, another one. Your host is waiting to hear from you. I went back to the site. The listing was gone. Not just delisted, completely scrubbed. No history, no record of my reservation. Like it had never existed. So I contacted customer support. They said the property had been removed from the platform 5 years ago. That's not possible, I said. I stayed there last week. The rep paused, asked if I had a confirmation email. I did, forwarded it. She went silent for a long time, then said someone from another department would follow up. I never heard back. Things got weirder after that. Every Friday morning, like clockwork, a new reminder. Rate your experience. We value your feedback. Your opinion helps future guests. Except there are no future guests. I started combing through the photos I'd taken, just to reassure myself that I wasn't losing it. And that's when I noticed something. In the background of one kitchen shot, just behind the microwave, you could see a man. Not clearly, more like the outline of someone standing sideways, half-shadowed. I hadn't seen anyone during my stay. Hadn't heard anyone either. I checked the next photo. He was closer. Still blurry, but definitely there. In the third, he was gone, but the fridge door was open. That night, I barely slept. By morning, a new email had arrived. Thank you for your stay. Your 5-star review helps us grow. I hadn't written that. I checked the app. There it was, my profile, smiling awkwardly in the user photo, next to a glowing 5-star review. Dated 3 days from now. A perfect stay. Host was present but never intrusive. Will return. I haven't opened the app since, but the emails keep coming. So let me ask you something. If you found a photo on your phone, dated next week, where you're not alone in your own house, would you swipe left or stare? And what if you blinked and the timestamp changed to today? If you made it to the end, you're officially a legend. Seriously, thank you so much. If you didn't fall asleep, hit that like button and subscribe. See you in the next video.